Today's recipe, we're going to cook a dish in a clay pot. Something you probably find in your garden. This is a recipe from the Azores island Terceira, the third island. And I wasn't even familiar with this recipe until I went to a restaurant in San Francisco called Casa. This is Chef Telmo's restaurant. He's been a chef in the Bay Area for a while. I had what they call the Alcatra. The island of Terceira has a rich history of raising cattle. Ever since the discoveries of the Azores, they brought a lot of cows over. The cows became venerated, a lot of respect for the cows after the Spanish invaded Terceira. On July 25th, 1581, the Spanish attacked the Azores island of Terceira. The Azoreans were fighting back, and a man went up to the area where they were keeping the bulls and the cows and basically let them all loose into the town. And if you've seen a bull loose, it causes a lot of havoc. If you see many bulls loose, you better watch out. During this battle, the bulls were just running the streets, freaked out the Spanish. Most of them were able to make it back to their boats, and they saved the island of Terceira. And up until this day, they'll have a running of the bulls where they let a bull loose on the street. Even in the Central Valley of California, this tradition is still upheld. Almost all the festas from Oakley, Livingston, Modesto, they'll have a day where they put the bull in a corral and people are in there trying to dodge the bulls. And if you go to Terceira downtown, you'll see a statue with 3 bulls venerating their respect for cattle on that island. If you're interested in reading more about this battle with Spain and the running of the bulls, I'll put a link to the article in the show notes. So we'll get started. It's a fairly simple recipe. I have some chuck. I cut the chuck in half once, and then I cut it into slabs that are probably about 10 ounces each. Then I also have some shank. That bone running down the middle is the shank of the cow. I have about 5 pounds of beef. When I salt meat, I usually do about 1/3 teaspoon of granulated salt per pound. I'm also putting in some pork belly. That's the part of the pig it's from. So we'll just layer this. I have some homemade wine. You do not need a clay pot for this. You could do it in an oven safe pot or big casserole type of dish. So I'll put a few onions down, then I'll layer some of the meat in there. Again, this has already been salted. Put a few peppercorns on each layer, cloves in each layer, some allspice. I use about a tablespoon of allspice. Put some of the pork belly in there. Put some more onions, bay leaf, some garlic. I have a whole head of garlic I'm putting in here. You can see I have some peppercorns, onions there, some of the meat, and you just keep on layering up. I'll put another piece of shank in there, some pieces of chuck in there, some more peppercorns, a few cloves, probably about 5 cloves per layer, some more allspice, put in some of the tomato paste, about a half a can of tomato paste, that's probably like 3 tablespoons. Put in some more onions, some more of the pork belly. But this recipe, you don't want to hurry it. And basically what you're looking for is you should be able to pull this meat apart with a fork. Just break it apart. You can see it's packed in there pretty well. You know, a couple cups of my homemade wine in here. So I'm trying to fill it up so it comes to the top. So you could use wine, you could use half wine, half like chicken stock, or half wine, half water. Cover it with some foil. Just let time do its thing. This is just takes time to break down those tough collagen fibers and turn them into gelatin. Anytime you start this recipe, at least give yourself 4 hours in the oven. It's also very traditional to have this dish with masa sobada. I have the recipe for that on my channel. And if you want to learn more about slow cooking, on my website, Just Cook with Michael, under cooking concepts, I have a whole section on slow cooking, like the proper temperatures, the amount of time, why you need that amount of time. I mean, something like this, in an hour, it's safe to eat. I mean, the meat's going to be cooked to well done. You know, it's going to be at 160 degrees, but it's going to be tough. So it doesn't need 4 hours to cook it to a safe temperature to eat it. It needs like the 4 hours or plus to get it to be tender. Okay, it's been about 4 hours since I put the Alcatra in the oven, and about an hour just for it to get up to temperature. Looking pretty good here. Because as long as it's simmering, that's what you want. Let me see if I could pull this apart. See this piece here? I mean, it's tearing, and I'm sure I could pull it apart if I put a lot of force, but it's not what I call fall off the bone tender. So it easily could go for another hour. This is also a good time to taste. Definitely has really good flavor. I don't think I need to add any more salt. But this is the point where if you wanted to add more salt, you could do it now. Just sprinkle a little bit of salt, mix it a little bit, sprinkle a little more salt, whatever you think is necessary. I think it'll even get better as if I give it another hour or even up to 2. Because I just could see, you see like this cartilage stuck to the bone? That will melt away. That slowly melts away and turns into delicious sauce. Oh, it smells so good. Pretty simple to put together. It's just time. A lot of this food just needs time. So it's been 6 hours since I put the clay pot in the oven. So you can see how tender this is. See how the meat is just pulling apart so easily. Bones are looking really clean. All the collagen is coming off the bones. And you just can see how tender this meat looks. This is delicious. I love this type of slow cooked Portuguese food. Now you know how to make Alcatra. Now go cook for someone you love. If you do want to get one of these clay pots, I believe Portugalia out of Fall River, Massachusetts sells them online. Also, you could get this one on Amazon. I'll put a link in the show notes. Don't forget to check out my website, justcookwithmichael.com. The recipes there are very organized, easy to print out. It is much easier than trying to print out recipes from the YouTube notes section.